Well, hello again. Welcome to the VK6CS amateur radio channel. Okay, well I've built the LC meter, the kit, the inductance capacitance meter, and there we go. There it is, mounted in the case. And I haven't switched it on and tested it yet. I thought I'd actually record the first time it was powered up, just to see what it looks like. A couple of things that are slightly disappointing with the kit. One is that this variable resistor here, VR1, I haven't seen that mentioned in the setup yet. I've seen something mentioned about the links. That's more of a test arrangement. And this reset button, or calibrate button, I can't remember what it is now. I have to have a look at the front panel, which fortunately I happen to have here. It's a 0, sorry. So calibrate 0, whatever you want to call it. This button here, it says in the instructions, this is just a momentary push switch. It says in the instructions you push that to 0 it, and to mount it proud of the board so that it protrudes through the front panel. Now I mounted it as far off the board as I could that would actually allow soldering of the pins through a good connection to the pins through the board. You see what I mean? So when you stick the pins through the board, obviously you've got to have a certain amount of pin to get a good solder connection to, and I had that as a minimum. So it was off the board as far as it could go, and it still doesn't protrude through the front panel. So to 0 it, you're going to have one of those things that you might tap an iPad with, you know, or something just to press that and 0 it. So that was a little disappointing, but still, there we go. As long as it reads inductance and capacitance, I'll be quite happy. As long as it reads it reasonably accurately, I'll be happy. Okay, well I have here a battery I actually bought for my fire alarm some time ago, so it probably ran out of energy a very long time ago. Come to think of it, I know how it feels. Alright, so these ripping noises you can hear in the background are me trying to get the battery out of the bag. There we go, so it's a new battery. This thing's never been connected before. Now something I did do in here, actually let's get the battery out. Continue to wrestle with the battery. And let's fit the battery. At the right polarity will be a good start, wouldn't it? There we go. And go in there like that. Somehow like that anyway, that'll be fine, I'm sure. Okay, right, now we refer to the book instructions, as the guy in the movie said. Now it says here, check out and calibration. It's ready for testing. To do this, first connect a plug power supply 9-volt battery, slide a switch, S1 to capacitance position. Okay, this is S1. Capacitance position is to the left. The message calibrating should appear on the LCD for a second or two. Then the display should change to read C equals NN.N puff. Okay, picofarads. Alright, well let's just see if it does that. So this is the first time it's been switched on. Let's go. Calibrating. C equals 3.8, 4.1, 4.2 puff. So it doesn't say NN, does it? So what's it reading? It must be reading. It must be reading something. Now maybe this has got something to do with this VR1 that I haven't seen any mention of in the instructions. This variable resistor here that's next to the 0 button. Now let's just see what else it says here, because it might say, if it doesn't, where NN.N is less than 10 puff. Well, that's saying 4.6 picofarad, okay, so that's less than 10 picofarad, so it's possible that it's just a slightly different version of firmware. So let's say that's a winner. Then your meter is probably working correctly. So just leave it for a minute or two to let the test oscillator stabilise. During this time the capacitance reading may vary slightly by a few tenths of a picofarad as everything settles down. This is normal. Okay, alright, well has that been on for a minute? Oh, let's time it for a minute. Now, okay, that's interesting, where nn.n is less than 10 picofarads. Okay, so maybe it's a later version of firmware and it'll actually read down to 1 picofarad or whatever. But 4.7 it's saying now, that's definitely less than 10. It's probably working correctly. Capacitance may vary slightly. Then press the 0 button for a second or two and release it. This forces the microcontroller to start up again and recalibrate. So you'll briefly see calibrating and then C equals 0 puff. 0.0 PF, picofarads. Okay. Well, let's just see if that's had long enough to sort itself out. So I'll hold that down. Calibrating. Look at that. So it's working first time perfectly. First time I've switched it on and powered it up. So that's really quite encouraging. I think I like this. I like this device already. Okay. Now press the 0 button. Done that yet? Blah blah blah. Yes. Okay. This indicates the microcontroller has balanced out the stray capacitance and reset its 0 reference. Fantastic. If this doesn't happen, okay, so if you do have a capacitor known value, you can easily use it to fine tune. Okay, well I don't have anything that's what I could do. You get these leads with it as well. These leads. There's going to be a bit of stray capacitance on the leads, but so what I probably should have done was press the calibrate button with these leads connected. But let's just see what it says about my about a variable capacitor. Got a variable capacitor there. Can you see that? Possibly not. Let's just get that out of the way. Got a few bits and pieces left over from when I built this thing. So I put that there, and got a scruffy old variable capacitor there. There we go. It's a pretty scruffy old variable capacitor, but you know, a night spent in Coca-Cola or CLR or something, and that would be like that would come out like a new pin. Okay, so let's put that in there. Let's put that in there. Okay, so that's saying 10 picofarads. That's pretty good. That's picking up the stray capacitance on the leads. So what I should probably do there is, see, that's saying 13 picofarads. So now if I just get it to calibrate, that will get rid of that stray capacitance in the leads. Now it's saying 0 picofarads. You can see that. We're back to 0 picofarads. I like this already. And then I'll clip that on my capacitor. Here we go. And on here. Oh, look at that. And now it's saying, that is saying 229 picofarads. I don't know if you can see that. I'll just hold that up actually. There you go. It's changing slightly as I'm bringing that up, and the leads are moving around, but you get the gist of how this thing works. So there we go. So it's saying 231 picofarads. So as I open the capacitor, that should get less and less. You can see that dropping like a rock. Look at that. That's 203 picofarads. It's 159 picofarads. It's fully open. What's the capacitance of it? What's the minimum capacitance? Okay, 13 or 14 picofarads. There you go, 50 puff. So as soon as you start meshing the blades there, it goes. The minimum capacitance for this thing's about 33 picofarads. Sorry about that. I'm looking at the device, not through the bloody viewfinder. So as you can see, I'm adjusting the variable capacitor, and as I'm bringing the vanes, as I'm meshing the vanes, the capacitance goes up. And you can see, I hope you can see that display anyway. Can you see that display? There we go. You can see that it's 122, 128, 135, 155, 169. Yeah, so, and fully meshed. It's oops, nudge the tripod. It's the maximum capacitance I can get out of it. Yeah, okay. So that's 235 picofarads, fully meshed. That's only 1/2 of the capacitor. So you know, with it, with both sections in parallel, that would be 460, 470 picofarads. So that would actually do. That's pretty close to 500. Pretty close to 500 puff if I use both gangs on that capacitor. I'll just put that down. So if I used both gangs of that capacitor, let's move that, whoops, the wrong way. So if I connected up both gangs, that's one gang, that's another gang. If I use both gangs of this capacitor, that would be pretty close to 500 puff, and that would be ideal as a what the Americans call a plate tuning capacitor, or what we in the UK call an anode tuning capacitor in a high power amplifier. So if I wanted to make an amplifier that run 1000 watts, not that I would of course, being a terribly good chap and being very mindful of the rules, if I wanted to make a 1000 watt amplifier with a valve in it, or a couple of little Russian triodes or something like that, this 500 puff capacitor would be fine as a plate tuning capacitor. So there we go. So there's my little device. It's measuring capacitance. Do I have an inductance? I haven't got an inductance around to measure, but I'm pretty sure if I switched it on, it's behaving exactly as the instructions say it should behave. If I went and got an inductor and flick this switch here, centre is off, and you've got left is capacitance, right is inductance. If I switched it to the right to measure inductance, it's going to measure inductance, and it will measure. I don't know what it measures now. What's the range on this thing? I know when I bought it, I thought this would be really useful for making RF chokes and you know, coils and stuff. I've been thinking about making a VLF converter. As well. I need to wind some coils for that. So anyway, it would be fine for that. So here we go. It does 10 nanohenries to over 70 millihenries. So you know, 10 nanohenries to over 70 millihenries. That's going to be that's an excellent range for playing around with amateur radio stuff. Because you're going to be usually the coils are going to be so many microhenries. Actually RF chokes are millihenries, but more than 70, yeah, maybe, I don't know, I'll have to have a look at that. Capacitance range 0.1 picofarads to over 800 nanofarads, so 100 ends and 0.1, so that's 0.8. So that's not bad. That's really good. So I'm very happy with that. So the only disappointing thing was that my 0 button doesn't protrude through the case, and there's no mention of what to do with VR1. So I suspect VR1 would be getting a twiddle if I get a known very high spec capacitor or inductor, and I know exactly what the inductance or capacitance is. I can put it on that, and then when it's zeroed, then zero it, put that on there, and then just tweak that. I'm guessing that's what that's for, but I haven't yet seen a mention of it in the instructions. So so there we go. I won't show you me putting the lid on, but very happy with that. All right, well, hope you found that interesting. I'll catch you next time. As always, many thanks for watching.